Hi folks, how you doing? It's Will here, back once again for the last fight card of 2015 as we're going to be breaking down UFC on Fox 17, Dios Anjos versus Cerrone 2 from the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida. Coming off UFC 194 with one of the most unbelievable finishes in a UFC title fight ever, with Conor McGregor knocking out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. And it kind of makes this title fight that little bit more interesting because Conor McGregor's talked about moving up to lightweight and fighting the winner of this fight for the title. So I'm going to quickly try and get through this. I'm not going to try and waste too much time. And we'll get on to that. Starting off heavyweight division, we have Luis Henrique against Francis Ngannou. Two newcomers to the UFC. Henrique's 8-1 with I think it's 3 wins via knockout, 2 via submission, and the rest by decision. Francis Ngannou 5-1 with most of his wins coming by knockout. I haven't seen too much of these guys. I've seen a little bit today, just doing a little bit of research. What I've seen with Luis Henrique is he's going to be the smaller heavyweight here, so he's probably the quicker guy. A little bit reckless with his punches, but he is the better striker of these two guys here. Francis Ngannou, on the other hand, is probably the more natural heavyweight. Big guy, he's a unit. And he is definitely the more harder puncher in this fight here. But he hasn't got much technique behind it. Looking at it, how do I think it's going to go? I just think it's who's going to get off first. And I think maybe Luis Henrique is maybe just the quicker striker, the quicker puncher. So kind of hard one to pick when I've only watched like one fight of each of these guys, not too much. I'm going to go with Luis Henrique, not by much though, by a knockout in the second round, TKO. Welterweight division, we've got Hayder Hassan against Vicente Luque. Both these guys fought in the Ultimate Fighter 21. I believe they actually fought each other. I think maybe Luque beat Hayder Hassan, could be wrong. Saw both their fights back in July. Hayder Hassan got submitted by Kamaru Usman, who's fighting in the fight after this, and Vicente Luque lost a very close fight to Michael Graves. Hayder Hassan, he's got the more experience, 33 years old, fighting at American Top Team. Pretty explosive striker, he's got some nice movements, big power. If he gets you up against the cage, he will pound you out there. He's got some nice technical strikes, but he does gas out pretty bad, which isn't really a great thing. Vicente Luque, on the other hand, he's got a 7-5-1 record. Most of his fights were back in Brazil. I thought he looked okay on the show, a talent that was maybe coming through, but then Michael Graves kind of wore him out with the wrestling and won that fight there. I'm going to go with a more explosive striker here. I don't think there's going to be an awful lot between these two. I think Hayder Hassan's going to come out quick, maybe grab the first couple of rounds, and Luque will grab a third. But I like Hassan to win the fight by decision, not by much. Welterweight division, staying in there, we've got Leon Edwards against Kamaru Usman. Leon Edwards, a guy we've seen in the European circuit here, he's got like an 8-second knockout, I think it was, of Seth Brzezinski in Poland when he made his had his second fight in the UFC. He lost his initial fight in the UFC to Claudio Silva, which I thought was a very close fight. Won in Glasgow in the summer, saw that fight with my own eyes. I was quite lucky. That was right before the Joanne Calderwood fight, and of course I got to walk out behind Joanne for that card. So I literally got to sit cage side, where I was literally right behind Peter Pawlik's team, and very quick, very good speed off his feet, angles very well. I can't remember, I think it was round number 3 where he dropped Peter Pawlik with a beautiful head kick, and that came out of nowhere. So he has got some beautiful speed, some nice technical striking. I still think he's prone to getting taken down, and I think that's where Kamaru Usman has got the advantage in this fight, because I thought on the Tough Show he was very much the best guy on the show. He's got the wrestling background, but you see he's got, I think, 6-1 record, but all of his wins are by decision. So see, I've been looking through this card at Counter Move because I won about $450 in Counter Move at the weekend, and looking for finishes in this guy, and this guy could definitely be one of them, but I'm struggling to see finishes in the whole entire card. I think this is going to be really close. I can see Edwards coming out quick, but I can see the grappling of Kamaru Usman really coming to the fore in this one as the fight goes later. I think Leon Edwards has definitely got enough to get back to his feet though, so very, very close fight. I'm going to edge Kamaru Usman via a decision here. Moving on to the preliminary card in Fox Sports 1, a couple of kind of veterans of the sport. We have Cole Miller, he's definitely a veteran, against Jim Alers, a guy who's been around a long time but is only recently in the UFC. Cole Miller, been around in, I think it was Ultimate Fighter a long time ago. Very dangerous guy with submissions. Coming off a loss against Max Holloway. He's a guy that he's very long for the featherweight division. He was a guy that used to fight in previous divisions. He doesn't have much in the way of striking. It has improved the more he's been in the UFC. But his bread and butter is getting fights down to the ground and using his length to really exert submissions down there and grapple, just get into transitions and get chokes down there. Jim Alers, on the other hand, is a guy I watched in Cage Warriors, came into the UFC, beat Alan Omer, got a decision there, and then he got knocked out by Chaz Skelly, got hurt with a knee in the middle of the second round, and Skelly just jumped on him with punches and stopped that fight. Very, very close fight this. I've never been the biggest Cole Miller fan in all honesty, but he has got some really good, beautiful jiu-jitsu on the ground. But Jim Alers, 9 of his, I think 11 wins or 12 wins are by submission, so that he's got a very savvy ground game too. I think betting wise, I think Jim Alers is maybe going to be the underdog in this one, so I'm going to go Jim Alers via a very close split decision. Lightweight division, we've got Nick Lentz against Danny Castillo. Big fight for Danny Castillo here. He's coming off 3 losses. Jim Miller was the last one out, a split decision. He got knocked out by Paul Felder. So he's got a lot to prove here. And I see Alpha Male on a little bit of a decline with Paige Van Zandt losing, Chad Mendes getting knocked out. Uriah did win at the weekend. Just found out tonight that Cody Garbrandt has a fight at UFC Pittsburgh in February against John Lineker. That's a hell of a fight. Big fight early in his career for Cody Garbrandt, but we'll break that down when it comes around. Nick Lentz coming off a loss against Charles Oliveira. That was a pretty fun fight. I thought Lentz was actually starting to get into the fight and starting to dominate a little bit, but the submission skills of Charles Oliveira, he caught him in there and he had to tap out. I see this being a very close fight once again. Danny Castillo, I think, has been working with Bang Ludwig. He showed improvements in his last fight against Jim Miller on the feet. Has he made enough in this fight? I'm not sure. I think he's on his way out. So I'm going to edge Nick Lentz via decision here. Middleweight division, Josh Samman against Tamdan McCrory. This has got the potential of being a very, very fun fight. Tamdan McCrory making his way back into the UFC after about 6.5 years, 2009, August 2009. Left the sport for a while and he reappeared in Bellator, knocked out Brennan Ward in the first round, and then he submitted Jason Butcher, I believe. And then a little bit surprised he left Bellator. He was probably on the verge of getting a title shot over there in that middleweight division against probably Brendan Halsey, I think it was at that time. And came over to the UFC, so it was a bit of a surprise. Nice to see him back though. You can see the improvements he's made since 2009 and now. But he's against a guy who's kind of streaking in the UFC at the minute, and Josh Samman, coming off a couple of beautiful finishes. One over Eddie Gordon with a devastating head kick knockout. Last time, I think this was a tough finale was that as well in Vegas. He beat Kau Magalhaes, landed a couple of big shots on the feet, took him down there, kind of pounded him a bit, and then got the choke and got another nice submission there. I think he's coming off a couple of bonuses as well. Originally I went with Tamdan McCrory in this one, but then as they've kind of last week I've looked at a little bit more of Samman and McCrory. I think that Samman's he's on the way up at the minute. I know McCrory's looking very good himself, but I like Josh Samman. I think he's a really nice, could be a nice addition to this middleweight division, so I'm going to go Josh Samman. I think he could finish this fight as well. He's very relentless and he keeps coming forward. He's got a good gas tank and he's a heavy hitter, so I might go with a late second round TKO for Josh Samman. Women's bantamweight division, we have Sarah Kaufman against Valentina Shevchenko. Shevchenko coming in here on about a week's notice after Germaine de Randamie is pulled out. If you don't know about Valentina Shevchenko, she is a kickboxer, 16-2 record, very, very fun fighter to watch, very technical kickboxer. Saw her wins against Joanna Clase and Angelique Pilio. There's a lot of other fights on there you can go and watch her, but I think she's got a tough fight here, coming in a week's notice especially. She's got like an 8-1 MMA record, with her last win coming over Jane Finney, who's a kind of veteran of the women's MMA circuit, won by decision in that one. But obviously she's going to rely on that kickboxing. And I think she'll have a nice fight here with Sarah Kaufman, because Kaufman likes to engage on the feet, but she's the all-around better martial artist with more skills there. So Sarah Kaufman's coming off that loss to Alexis Davis. Personally, I just think Valentina Shevchenko is just undersized. I think she's a perfect 125 fighter. Sarah Kaufman is a bigger girl in that weight class. She's very relentless herself. As long as she doesn't get caught coming forward and kind of let up a little bit, Sarah Kaufman should win this fight. As Shevchenko got enough to stay in this fight throughout the 3 rounds? I think so, but I do think Sarah Kaufman is just a kind of few levels above Shevchenko. So Sarah Kaufman, going to go decision for this one. And in the main event, the co-main event of the kind of prelims, we have CB Dolloway against Nate Markquardt. Both guys, I think, are now on the decline. Nate Markquardt definitely is on the decline. He's got that win over James Tahuna, but he's lost 4 of his last 5. Now, I know he's lost to Ellenberger and Safedine and Kelvin Gastelum last time out. The corner threw in the towel on that one, which I thought was actually really good of the coaches. We don't see enough of that. If your fighter's taking punishment, bring them out of that fight. This is a really kind of like typical wrestler versus striker here. CB's coming off losses to Michael Bisping. He got his ass beat, and I can't remember the last. Probably Lyoto Machida. That's who it was that beat him up there. Had a nice kind of win over Francis Carmon. He knocked out Cesar Ferrara in probably his best performance in the UFC. I don't like Nate Markquardt. I think he needs to hang his gloves up pretty much. I don't think CB Dolloway is an awful lot behind him, but I think he's got more to offer and he's got more in the grappling stakes. If CB can stop Nate Markquardt from really hitting the big strikes, I like CB Dolloway to take this fight to the ground later in the fight, kind of later in the rounds, once Markquardt starts to gas a little bit. I think he's probably got the more submission skills. Markquardt is a little bit underrated when it comes to the submissions. We've seen that with the Tahuna finish. CB is quite inventive. We've seen some Peruvian neckties in there. So I think he could catch a submission in this one. So I'm going to go CB Dolloway via a submission early in round number 3. The main event of the Fox Sports 1 card, a really interesting and exciting fight. Charles de Bronx Oliveira against Myles Jury. Nice to see Myles Jury come down and add into this featherweight division. The featherweight division is loaded. I know Conor McGregor is right there as the head honcho of that division now, with Frankie Edgar right there. I don't think Jose Aldo's done with this division yet. Max Holloway keeps on winning. Mendes, I think, needs to come out of that division. We've got people like Bektic coming up as well. So there's some good fighters in this division here. Charles Oliveira coming off that loss to Max Holloway back in Saskatoon in the summer there, I think it was. He injured his neck or something. It was quite a weird one. Before that, he beat Nick Lentz, a guy he seems to be in the UFC for a long, long time. Very inventive with his submissions. Very dangerous once it goes down there. We've seen him submit Hayoki, I think it was, and he controlled Jeremy Stevens down in there. And just a tough guy. But on the feet, I don't think he's got an awful lot. I think he looks for the door a little bit as well. If he gets hurt with something, he looks to quit. And I think maybe in that fight with Max Holloway, he did get hit with some body strikes, so he's maybe looking out there. Who knows? Myles Jury, interesting to see him at 145. Big dude. Coming off that loss to Donald Cowboy Cerrone, where he really was never in that fight. 4 lighted wins over Diego Sanchez and Takanori Gome, who are on the way down, without a doubt, in that division. But he has beat good guys in that division as well. So he has moved camps. He's went to Power MMA down in Arizona. So this will be interesting to see. I like Myles Stewart. I think he's got more power. I think he's longer. If he keeps Oliveira at the end of his jab, he can start to hurt him a little bit. I think if he uses the leg kicks, he can hurt Oliveira. So I like Myles Stewart. I think he can finish this fight as well. I'm going to go Myles Stewart with a 3rd round TKO once Oliveira really gets hurt and maybe kind of looks to go out a little bit. Moving on to the main card of UFC on Fox 17. Randa Markos against Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Kowalkiewicz is coming into the UFC. I think she's 7-0. A girl I've known about since about, I think it was KSW 23. Mamed Khalidov against Melvin Manhoef. It's the first time I've ever seen this girl, a couple of years back, 2-3 years maybe. We've since seen her fight in the US against Mizuki Inoue at Invicta. I think this was about this time last year. And she fought in KSW this year with a win there. Pretty good all around fight. I think she's a 105er. She's not a big girl whatsoever. I'm not entirely sure about her gas tank. She has got that win over Inoue, so we've seen she did keep going, but it was a very close split decision. I think with Randa Markos, she's starting to come up a little bit. She's training out of TriStar. She'll be getting awesome training there. She is the better wrestler. I think she can take Kowalkiewicz down. Do I see a finish? Potentially from Markos, but I like Randa Markos' overall. I thought against Aislinn Daly, I actually thought her striking had come on a little bit. Used the jab very well, in and out, not particularly fast, a little bit flat-footed, but she did show some improved striking, and her grappling is there as well. So I like Randa Markos. I like her to win by decision. Lightweight division, we have Michael Johnson against Nate Diaz. Now, it's great to see Nate Diaz back, but is he really going to be a threat in this lightweight division anymore? I don't think he is. I think that division's coming along great guns. There's other bigger guys that are going to be joining this division. I think if Conor McGregor comes up to this division, there is so many fights that he can have fun fights. Donald Cerrone, Anthony Pettis, him v Nate Diaz would be fun. Tony Ferguson, I mean, that guy's a beast in that division. So there's plenty of good fighters in there for that division. I just don't think Nate Diaz really isn't relevant anymore. But saying that, I've had a feeling for him in this fight. I don't know why. He's only fought twice in the last 2 years. He fought last year against Rafael Dos Anjos and got his ass beat. Leg kicks. He doesn't defend leg kicks, which I think Michael Johnson can use to his advantage because he is a very speedy fighter and he's in and out. He pops a beautiful left hand. Coming off that loss against Beneil Dariush, I actually thought a lot of people were kicking up shit regarding that fight. I thought Beneil Dariush won that fight. Watch it back and I think he won rounds 2 and 3. 2 was close. I thought Dariush definitely got 3, but Michael Johnson, a fighter who's always progressing, always coming forward. I actually really want to pick Nate Diaz in this one. I have no idea why, because his last legitimate win was against Gray Maynard, who is well and truly on the decline. But I have to go with my head here instead of my heart. Michael Johnson via unanimous decision in this one. I don't think he can knock out Nate Diaz, but I think he can pepper him with leg kicks and beat him up down there. Cool main event. Oh, I've been looking forward to this for a long ass time. Junior Dos Santos Cigano against Alistair Overeem. Now, if you've watched these videos before, I am not the biggest fan of Alistair Overeem. I don't really rate him overly much as a fighter. Overall, I think he's been cheating and he's been caught in the past. Just a little bit too cocky for my liking. He's not, and I really shouldn't say that because I'm a John Jones fan and we know how cocky he is, and Conor McGregor, so it's just something about it. I just can't take to him. I never have done. I don't think I ever will. Watched him in the Pride days. I thought he was a really pretty good light heavyweight down there. Come up, and he's won some titles, Strike Force and the Dream K1 thing. He's just a guy that I've never really took to. Coming off that, I think it was Roy Nelson. He had the win over last time. But when he faces anybody with legitimately big power, I know Roy Nelson's got power, but Ben Rothwell got banged out in that first round. Threw away that fight against Bigfoot Silva, was clearly up 2 rounds, gassed a little bit, got pounded out. With Junior Dos Santos, I think he's a guy who, we don't see enough of Junior Dos Santos, but the fights this guy's in, it's absolute wars. No wonder it takes him a year in between fights, because he's always in brawls. And that last one against Stipe Miocic, it was a very, very close fight. Got down early but came back and won the fight. He is the clear number 3 heavyweight, I reckon, in that division, behind Cain Velasquez and Fabrizio Verdum. But I think if you were to pair Fabrizio Verdum and Dos Santos up again, I think it'd be an interesting matchup. We've seen them fight in the past. Dos Santos knocked him out there, and I think he could definitely do it again. I think that Junior Dos Santos is going to dislodge Alistair Overeem's chin. But if he doesn't do it early, Alistair Overeem's going to come into this fight late on, I believe. He actually beat, it was Roy Nelson, then it was Stefan Struve, who he knocked out in Phoenix last year, I remember now. Or vice versa. In fact, it was vice versa. I'm not going to pick Alistair Overeem, but I do think he has a chance if Dos Santos doesn't get him out there quick. Junior Dos Santos, first round TKO for me. And the main event of the night is Rafael Dos Anjos defending his UFC lightweight title for the first time against the cowboy Donald Cerrone in a rematch which took place a couple of years ago in Indianapolis, with Rafael Dos Anjos winning 29-28 across the board. In a fight he did dominate a little bit. I think Cerrone gassed a little. And since then, Dos Anjos has come on leaps and bounds. He's Benson Henderson. He totally... Now, if you've watched these videos, you know I'm an Anthony Pettis guy, big Anthony Pettis guy, and he was unbelievable against Anthony Pettis. He totally stopped Anthony Pettis from doing anything in that fight, and it was one of the most impressive performances of 2015, without a shadow of a doubt. Excuse me. Put him up against the cage, didn't let Anthony Pettis get any of his flashy techniques off. Took him down, just beat him up. He really beat Anthony Pettis up, and ever since he's went to King's MMA, he's just looked fantastic. He's added knockout power to his repertoire. His grappling's always been there. He did look very big against Anthony Pettis, and there has been talks the last few days that he looks very, very small again, which, with these drug tests and stuff nowadays, maybe he was on something. Who knows? It's I'm not going to take away that win over Anthony Pettis, because it was a dominant performance and a great performance from him there. Donald Cerrone, on the other hand, he last beat John McDessie back in May. Before that, I think he fought Benson Henderson, which I thought Benson Henderson beat him in that fight. And John McDessie is not a fight he should really be facing. I know it was short notice. The one thing that kind of scares me a little bit about this is Cowboy likes to fight, and he's only fought a couple of times this year, and he's hasn't fought in 6-7 months. Cowboy usually has 2 or 3 fights in that time, so him waiting for this title fight, is it going to really kind of hurt him a little bit? I don't know, I'm not too sure, but I am going to go with underdog in this one. I'm going to see if I can finish 2015 with a bang, with another new champion to go into 2016, and potentially make a Donald Cerrone versus Conor McGregor fight for the UFC lightweight title. That would be a fun fight right there. It'd be interesting to see the weigh-ins for this one, because I want to see what Dos Anjos looks like on the scales. We know that Cerrone struggles sometimes on the scales. He looks very gaunt and skinny in the scales. But I think Donald Cerrone has got enough to win the big one. He had those big fights in the WEC for the title and just missed out. I think this is his time to win the big one, and I'm going to go with Donald Cerrone. He's got submissions there, but I don't think he can submit Dos Anjos. He could possibly knock out, I think he can knock out Rafael Dos Anjos. It'd be a big ask, but I'm going to go out and try and see if I can finish 2015 with a bang. Third round to TKO for Donald Cowboy Cerrone. So that's my picks for UFC and Fox 17 from Orlando. I'll be back, probably I'll have a video around about Christmas, maybe after Christmas, for UFC 195, Robbie Lawler versus Carlos Condit. phenomenal card with some great fights on there. Come follow me on Twitter, WillMartin7MMA. Go follow the boys at Severe MMA. They've got a great podcast there, a really good one this week. And listen to this week's with Conor McGregor winning. It should be fantastic. I will pop the link for that episode down below. And in 2016, I actually want to thank everybody for viewing in 2015. You've been fantastic. Comment, subscribe, like. Just come and talk to me because I like talking fights. 2016, I'm going to be changing things up a little bit. Maybe at every pay-per-view card, I'm going to be doing a giveaway, like a print of a picture, like McGregor knocking out Aldo, or something like that, or a DVD. And I will, once I kind of realise what I'm going to do, I will put it in the description, and you have to, whatever I decide to do, whether it's picks for a card or method of victory, then we'll go from there. So have a great Christmas, have a great New Year when it comes around, and we'll be back for January for Lawler versus Condit. Take care, all the best, and enjoy the festive times when they come around. Thank you very much, everybody.